and welcome. Today I'm going to do a plot tour of the front and back gardens. So let me show you what I've got going on. We'll start with the bed by my conservatory. So I planted my spare celeriac here and that looks like it's going well. The rest of the bed is going to be mulched as well with the straw. But what I thought I might do is plant some carrots in amongst these French beans and see if they come through because my carrots are not doing very well in the beds they're in, but I'll show you that when we get there. These are the Pongo beans from Bill and Val. They are, well, they look to me like they're doing really well. And then we've got some climbing Balotti beans there. I've got a couple of misses here, and then if we look underneath these leaves, there's a couple more Balotti beans getting away there, which is great. And then this is my lonely little cauliflower, which I'm quite lucky hasn't been laying on, but there's nothing in the middle yet. But I think that's all year round cauliflower, so hopefully we'll have a head soon. These are my main crop potatoes. They are, those ones are Cara, and these ones are Desiree, or Desiree, whichever way you say it. And I've got one of each in the pots as well, just to see how they do in the pots. And I will do a container tour separately of the pots. So I'll just focus on the beds for the time being. This is my lovage plant, which has gone to seed really, but the insects love it, so I'm just leaving it really to for pollinators to come in to. This area here, these are my, I'm doing containers again, aren't I? But these are Jerusalem artichokes, which are from last year, so they just need emptying, and then I'll probably sow some carrots in them. These are my spares well, not spares really. I've got 2 Market More cucumbers that need to go out, and these 2 courgette plants are going to a friend, and then the marigolds will go in the tomato bed, which I'll show you later on. I've got some, oh, I can't think what they're called now, but they've come back. Hostas, yeah, hostas. They do quite well here because it's a little bit shady, although this one doesn't seem to want to get any more growth on it, but we'll see. And then we've got the climbing French beans here, which these are Blue Lake, and they are just about getting away. Got a weedy old mess here. There's meant to be sweet corn interplanted with dwarf beans, but my sweet corn has been very, very poor, and I need to get in there and weed it all and then plant the spare sweet corn I've got, which I'll be doing in my next vlog. And then I'll have to decide what I'm going to put at that end, because I think I'll only have enough sweet corn for about 8 stations, I think. But I have got the sweet corn around the front as well. My Swedes, they are doing well. This bed does need a bit of a weed, but I've also interplanted radishes, and I think the radishes are making it look more weedy than it actually is. But those Swedes seem to be doing well. They're the best I've grown so far in my entire life. These are red cabbages for the winter, and I've interplanted them with weeds. Oh no, I mean I've interplanted them with spring onions, which you can see there. I've got some parsley to go in here, but I also need to sow some other herbs just to go in this, what I was calling a herb bed, but essentially it's just the lovage which is taken over really. I could trim that and put some of it into the compost heap. I just stopped filming a minute because I wanted to pull this netting off so you could have a proper look at the beds underneath. And then I thought, well, I'll explain why I'm pulling the netting off before I do it. Because the shallots are growing through the netting, and I am wondering if the shallots are actually ready and the netting is keeping the shallots upright, as it were, because I took the netting off this parsnip bed the other day to weed it, and when I took the netting off, some of the shallots in this row and in the carrot bed there, the middle, the shallots that were in the middle actually came up with the netting. So I was wondering if the shallots are actually ready, and I thought I'd better leave the netting off because I think it's supporting them. And if I leave the netting off, then the necks might flop over like this one, which tells me that the onions are ready to harvest. Well, these are shallots, but with onions and shallots, if the necks flop over like that, they're ready. So I'm going to take the nets off for the next couple of days and see what happens with these shallots. Okay, I've taken the netting off now, so we can have a look at the celeriac plants. They are doing well. The radish, I've cropped most of the radish that I had interplanted in here, and we're just waiting for those shallots to go. But I'll probably put some straw on this bed soon. My parsnips, they're looking good, the ones that did actually germinate. I've got a few patches on the go, and I think what I'll do is, once the shallots have gone, I will interplant lettuces in amongst the parsnips, and then once the lettuce has gone over, I'll sow some spring onions in here, I think is the plan. And then this carrot bed has been, well, not a disaster, but you can see it's very patchy here with carrots, and once the shallots have departed, there's lots of space. So I did sow some more carrots, and I put boards on top to try and keep the moisture in so they would germinate. And I've just taken those boards off now, and I can see that there is some carrot action there, but they're really elongated. And I had actually given up on the idea of growing carrots here for overwintering. I know I've got these carrots here, but what I had thought I would do was put some cabbages in for the winter. So I'm going to stick with that plan and sow the other carrots in that first bed I showed you. I think that is a better way forward. We come to the Chinese kale. It's almost finished now. I've had probably about 3 or 4 croppings from here, and I think that's probably about as much as we're going to get. Maybe 1 or 2 more. There are 1 or 2 shoots in there. But I took a lot of the foliage off last time because it would have broke when I was putting the cage back on anyway. And similarly with the kohlrabi, that's doing well. I took 2 kohlrabi from here the other day, and I've left the others to grow on. So they are looking good. And then the broccoli in this bed. I've really been surprised by this broccoli. It's been quite a good doer, and you can see there's a little broccoli head there, so I haven't cropped this plant yet. Similarly, there's other broccoli heads there, but some of them I have taken the head off, and then they grow these smaller side shoots there. And I will grow this variety in future rather than that Chinese kale at the bottom, because well, I just prefer the flavour of these. And yeah, I'll use the Chinese kale seeds as microgreens. My lupin is growing there. I'm sure these are sunflowers, and these sunflowers I'm going to transplant and put in my front garden. The blackberries are beginning to come back into life now. These ones are just waiting to ripen up a bit, and this one here I've just sort of started bringing up some more shoots, so that's all going well. My apple tree there, I'll talk about that in my next vlog, because I think I'm going to have to cut that all back. I think it's got fire blight. Plum tree here is doing well. This is, so far, I think this is the best plum tree this year. It seems to have more plums on it. And then down here I've got some garlic that needs harvesting. More self-seeded sunflowers that need transplanting. And then so far these Beth Alpha cucumbers here look like they're doing really well. They I've not had good luck with cucumber plants over the last few years, so I don't want to speak too soon or too loudly. But these gherkins seem to be doing okay as well. And another volunteer sunflower there. Once the sunflowers are gone, I can use the bed for something else, but I'm not quite sure what. The broad beans in this bed, I've had a few harvests from them now. I'll probably have one, maybe two more harvests, and then I'll pull that out, and I've got 3 more tomatoes to go in here. These are pink German tomatoes. I've got 6 interplanted between the garlic. The garlic is coming out imminently because it is covered in rust, absolutely covered in rust. I probably should have got it out last week, but I was busy doing my cucumbers and melons and all those in their own places. And similarly with this bed, the garlic needs to come out, and these are Heinz tomato plants, which are a bush variety. So those pink German are cordon, so they'll grow up okay, and these are a bush variety, but I will be putting in supports because last year they grew really heavily and ended up sort of like a lot of the arms broke off them because they didn't have support. So I'm gonna trellis them this year, and hopefully that will be enough. I'll just come back to this bed now because these are peas. These are sugar snap peas, and they're just starting to come together now. They're doing well from what I can see. They just need to bulb up a bit, not bulb up, but you know what I mean, plump up a bit. And these are meteor peas, and similarly there's quite a lot of peas on here, but they do need to start bulking up, as it were. And then my poor sprouts here are in desperate need for me to do this cover, so it is one of my next jobs that I really need to do, to put a cover on it, because it's just squashing them, you know, squashing the leaves. I don't want them to be squashed. I want them to grow as nice as they can, so I need to change the netting on there. Over here, this glorious sight of Bill and Val's Kent blue peas, and they do give a lovely colour. They really are a nice colour. They contrast really nicely with the borage that just happened to self-seed next to them. I wish I could claim credit for it, but that would be a lie. But the flower bed is doing well. The dahlias are beginning to come back again now. I thought I might have lost them all over the winter, but I haven't done so far. Oh look, this one is covered in black fly. My other lot of broad beans, this is a spoiler alert, are covered in black fly too, so I really need to sort something out about the black fly. And then we come round to this tree. These are plums as well, and the plums are growing well. There's just not many of them, and I do need to buy some nets to go over them for next year. This area hasn't been planted up. I'm waiting for lettuce to go in there, but the lettuce is growing really slowly. The fig is going. There's 2 fig trees there. That's not a fig tree, that's something that self-seeded itself. But we haven't had a fig off them, and I don't eat figs often, so I would rather use them as carrot pots. So that's what's going to happen with them. Actually, these are going to move, and I'm going to put a bed in here anyway. And then this plum tree, I'll stand back a bit so you can see, it looks gorgeous and had loads of plums on it. And then when I come to look at it the other day, it's like hunt the plum. They seem to have disappeared. So we will just have a couple of plums off here this year. But it was really laden with plums last year, so maybe that's why sometimes fruit trees don't do so well, do they? You know, they do well every other year, as it were. My container garden, I'll come back to that in a separate video. My garlic here does not seem to have as much rust as the garlic in the other bed. Not really sure why that is, but it doesn't. My coriander looks absolutely magnificent. It's attracting loads of pollinators, and I'm going to have loads of coriander seeds when, well, if I actually bother to collect them. But this garlic is all coming out soon, and my overwintering brassicas are going in there. This is the very sorry looking broad bean patch that is just infested with black fly. What happened was I went away a week ago, or maybe the week before the week ago, and they just moved in when my back was turned. So I had snipped some tops off before I went, but then they went on the ones that I hadn't done. So I'm not sure what to do about these. I might just strip them all out because I want to get my overwintering brassicas in. So there are some beans down here, but I don't think much is going to come from them because they're just covered in black fly. So I'm not quite sure what to do about these yet, but that's a bit sad. So if we come over now, let's look at happier things. Let's look at the courgettes and the squashes in the straw bale garden. We'll start with the compost heap. So these 2 green courgette plants, they look like they're really doing well. They look like they've settled. I've never grown anything on the compost heap before. So far so good, but let's not speak too soon. But they do look good. I've got, this is a Crown Prince squash, and the leader is getting away now. It's going over there, which is kind of where I wanted to go, because I sort of wanted to go along the fence, as it were. And then in my straw bale, I've got another Crown Prince squash, and that looks, if I just try and get them both in shot, they both look quite even, I think. I don't think either of them, well, maybe that one looks a bit stronger thinking about it, but that one's no slouch either. So they have settled and they're doing well. This one is, I think it's a butternut squash, or it could be a Turk's turban. I'm not sure. The labelling went a bit askew. I planted the seed and didn't put the label when I planted it. So we'll have to wait and see. This is a Uchikikurī, and that seems to be quite happy as well. Then this one is another guess what one, but it seems quite happy. It's just a bit smaller than the other ones. And that's another Uchikikurī, which is doing well. And then here's another Uchikikurī, which I think that one might have the slight edge over this one, but I think this one was a smaller plant when I put it in. So far so good, and we look like we are getting something there. Over to the Tayberries now. I've just noticed that we are getting the beginnings of some ripe squash there. lots of ripe fruit there. I've got squash on the brain. I'm obsessed with these squashes. And then the strawberries, we get in a good harvest of strawberries. I'm not always showing how many strawberries we get because I'm picking them daily at the moment, which is a good problem to have. And then more tayberries along here. I was just heading into the front garden and I remembered I hadn't actually shown you the Lola Rossa lettuce that's hiding behind these Kent blue peas. They're doing really well. We're getting a great harvest just off the 2 plants, so that's really good. Okay, we're in the front garden now. Stay with me, guys. It's not going to be much longer, I promise. I have left the asparagus to go to send up its fronds now. I stopped harvesting it about 2 weeks ago because basically my husband didn't harvest it when I was away, so some of them got quite long, which they're not great to eat then. And also the last few years when they've come up during the summer, there's only been about 2 fronds coming up per plant, and I wanted them to have sort of like 4 fronds coming up, because then that's really hard, you know, sending loads of energy back down into the another root, the crown. So I wanted to make sure this year there was more energy being sent back down, so I've stopped harvesting for now. But also the reason was I've noticed I've got some missing as well. I've got some plants missing, so I wanted to give them as much chance to sort of like to bring up any spears that they wanted to. But I have got down here some self-seeded plants. So what I need to do is harvest them, put them into a pot, and then wherever I see missing gaps as such, I can then plug the gaps, as it were. But I've also ignoring talking about the onions that I've interplanted. These are Ailsa Craig. They seem to be going well. I did have one that went to seed the other day, and I took it in the house and I ate it, and it was very nice. But so far the rest seem to be doing okay. On the potatoes, these are those are Charlotte. Then we've got Foremost, which are first earlies, and then those ones there that are looking a bit sorry for themselves, they are the Swift that I harvested the other day. So they'll be the next ones to harvest after I've done the containers. And then here I've made a start on planting out some of my leeks as well, and they seem quite happy there. If we come over to this bed, these are Heinz tomatoes, interplanted with marigolds, interplanted with onions again. So they are looking good. They are, I think they're probably slightly behind the ones in the back garden, but this front garden I think gets more heat than the back garden. So I need to mulch this with straw as well. I think that'll really help to keep the moisture in. This bed, if you saw my last vlog, you'll have seen I planted up, and everything looks like it's still quite happy. The sweet corn is doing well. This is incredible. The one around my back garden that isn't doing very well is called Swift, and to me these butternut squashes look like they've grown in the day. Actually, just today I was looking at them this morning, and I think there's at least 2 extra leaves than there was this morning. And these cucumbers, these are Space Master, and I'm not quite sure how happy they are. I suppose they seem to be growing a little bit, but they're not rocketing away. But it has been very hot, so I don't blame them. I'm not rocketing away myself. Finally, on to the fruit section in the front garden. My rhubarb is doing well. I've left it alone for a couple of weeks because I had harvested it quite a lot, so I've left it to come back, and it has come back. You can see a vast difference though between those 2 growing back there and these 2 growing here. I'm not quite sure why. They've all been treated the same way, but for some reason those ones at the back are not growing as well as these ones at the front. My blackcurrant's just beginning to turn now, and my red currants are actually ready for harvesting, so I need to do that really soon. They really are ready. I'm surprised actually that more birds haven't stolen them, but this bush is doing particularly well, so I need to get in and do the harvest. And then my gooseberries, they are doing well. They are not ready yet, but you can see that the purple ones up there are beginning to turn purple, so they will be ready very soon. I've come round to the front of this fruit bed now, and my jostaberries, they are beginning to turn as well. And then these are the other gooseberries I've got. This was actually planted here when we took over the garden. Not here, it has been in the back garden, flailing terribly, didn't do very well. I took it over the allotment, it did really well. I brought it back from the allotment and it's done really well here too. So I don't know what the make is, but it's very good, whatever it is. And lastly, well, I suppose I've got the trees to do as well. My grapevines, a tale of two halves again. This one is going bonkers conkers. I made a start on putting in proper wires, and then I had to go and get a turnbuckle so I could get some proper tension on these wires. But I'm really flummoxed how to approach this grapevine, because you're meant to have sort of one leader, as it were, but it just seems to be going bananas, and I don't know which way to do it. It's like everything seems to have, you know, fruit on them. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how to go about tying that in at the moment, which is probably why I haven't done it, because I'm dithering. And then this one, which I moved in the winter, it's got quite a bit of growth there, but not much on what I had planned to be the leader. So I might cut this one out and then see what we've got at the bottom here and start again with it, essentially. Start again. My potatoes in pots, I'll talk about it when I do my container one. And then my apple tree is actually looking reasonably good around the front, better than the one at the back. I haven't done any pruning with this as such, since I mean like summer pruning, where you prune out the apples to make sure that you're only growing like 2 per spur, as it were. It seems to have done it all itself, so I'm just leaving it alone to do its own thing. Seems to be quite happy without me interfering. Beetroot down here looks really sorry for itself. It does look like that in the heat. It's one of those plants that really does look very sorry for itself when it's hot. And then my pothos cherry bush, this has put on loads of growth. This sort of, when it arrived in the winter, it was sort of like where all these bare bits are, and that was all there was to it. So all that green growth, I'd say that's looking good. So fingers crossed for next year. Oh, did I pass over more beetroot? Yes, I did. There's more beetroot there. Still looking sorry for itself. And then another apple tree here, which is looking good. This is kind of what I meant about pruning the apples. I've got quite a cluster there, and that will do the tree no good. All those apples won't come to fruition, so I just need to take a few off. I'll do that soon. I was waiting for the June drop, and there has been a few that have dropped, but I would have expected more to drop, as it were, and it hasn't. More beetroot here, and then we come to the end. My sad little cherry tree that has died on one side. It was a duo grafted tree. That branch has died and I couldn't cut it off because it's been winter, and you shouldn't prune us in the winter. So I've got all this bottom growth now from what I think is originally the one tree, so I'll have to do some pruning on that as well. With a bit of a failure here at the top of my drive. I planted this with cobra beans, which are a climbing French bean, and it's only this one plant that survived. I do plan to re-sow it, but I just haven't got around to doing it. And then this one popped up, which I thought was originally cosmos, but turns out to be daisy. I'll show you this now because although it's a container, I'm here, so I might as well show you. It's doing what I wanted it to do, which is filling up and looking healthy, and I'll soon be harvesting the spring onions from it, and hopefully soon some of these tomatoes will come through as well. And these calendula give it a lovely sort of, just a lovely, let's stand back and admire it. It's not often something you plan actually comes to fruition, is it? So it could do with being a bit bushier, but you know, we can't have everything in life, can we? So let's be happy about what we've got. And finally the raspberries are beginning to fruit up. They've got some fruit coming on them there. I'm just waiting for them to ripen. And then the blueberries in pots. They look like they're growing, as in sort of the growth of the plant is coming on, but there's not many blueberries apart from this one here. So these are the first year they've been here, so I'm really more interested in them bulking up and putting more growth on rather than getting fruit. So I'm happy with that as well. Oh, and these poppies have sort of self-seeded themselves, but I'm leaving them because they look very nice. Well, that is it. We have eventually come to the end. I'm sorry this has gone on so long, but there's quite a lot to show you. It's just as well I'm going to do the containers in a different one, isn't it? Otherwise, we'd still be wandering around. Right, I'm going to leave you go. So, thank you very much for watching, and take care, everybody. And all I can say about the plot tour is lovely job. Well, mostly.